Welcome back. This is episode 5
We're
of
starting.
the Nested Sequence podcast. The podcast where me and Spencer try and talk about things, but instead talk about other things. What's going on here? Okay. Weather here has been turning a lot nicer now. We're deep into May. Last time we potted was actually I guess early May or maybe late April. And that's when we're still dealing with 15 degree days, 16 degree days as the peak, which was still very nice, and the anticipation of knowing that the hotter weather is coming. But I felt like it happened quick. Now it's just full summer vibes. It feels like July.
I know.
Everyone's out and about, walking in
It's nice.
shorts, all that kind of stuff.
People exist.
People exist.
This is the real New Year.
Yeah.
This is a real New Year.
Yeah.
That's how I treat it.
Yeah. So we went street skating yesterday.
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
I just made that mistake.
Yeah, you did. That's probably why I said it. Yeah, good times. But man, did that not humble me?
Not humble you?
No, sorry. Did that humble me or what? Because for years now, we've been skating with the same dudes, and I love to film skateboarding.
Yeah.
So that's usually all my role is when we go out. And you see the skaters go through the motions of when they're just triggered and upset and screaming and throwing their board, and you're just like, bro, just chill, man. What's the problem here? And it's easy to say.
It's just skateboarding.
It's just skateboarding, and that's easy to say when you're behind the camera and you're just chilling and vibing.
Yeah.
But man, when you're determined to do what you want to do, nothing's you're just in your own world. And I say that because I don't know if you remember this, but I think a security guard or what were they, YouTubers or something? There's other people with cameras, and they were talking to you.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was ready to go, and I was screaming at them, being like, don't talk to my filmer.
Yeah.
Go away. And then they went up to me being like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Can we just, I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been nicer to them, but when you're in that moment, an hour deep of just struggling to get something that you're very determined to get, and you're just tunnel vision, laser focus, traffic's good, no pedestrians are coming, it's my turn, Spencer's ready, let's go. And when someone else is trying to disrupt your flow like that, I'm just not about it. So
totally.
Yeah, I wish I could have been a better human being at that time, but
that one security guard that I was talking to, he was just like, man, I wouldn't like to get into a fight with that guy. He seems like he seems very he gets very angry. I was dying laughing.
Which is funny because you know me, you've known me practically my whole life, saying how we're family. And that's just not my characteristics. I'm never usually get to that place, but it's just when you're in the streets trying to accomplish something you want to accomplish with all the variables that are around you, and you need to stay focused, it's easy to get kind of pissed off there. So I'm glad I rolled away. Thank you again for filming that 2-hour battle for that. All the friends were there, which is nice, and they hyped me up.
Yeah.
We had lots of hijinks.
It was a good session regardless.
Yeah, it was. Because that was the last spot of the day too. So we hit four spots that day, and everybody got a clip, which is super productive. So man, what a great weekend that was with good weather. Had a shoot on the Saturday, had a skate session on the Sunday, went to go visit my mom on the Monday, so it was a great weekend. What about you? What was your weekend other than our Sunday skate?
I still want to talk about that skateboarding thing.
Sure.
Because I think about this often because it's something that we do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also why I get over things really quickly. Because as soon as it starts to turn, it's there's moments, and I find it so difficult to choose your battle when you're you feel it, you feel something engage in you to be it's happening. I'm not able to walk away from this right now, and I think there's the more that you're able to clock that moment to be fuck, I'm about to lock in. It's just hey, I either need to drop this right now or alter my trick to be do something a little bit differently, which is what we talked about when backtail shove.
Yeah.
To be that could have been a battle.
Yeah.
But the moment of just backtail was fun, breezy.
The vibes were high, so why put stress on the skater to be yo, that was sick, but I know your capabilities.
Yeah.
So and I know that especially because you got that so easy, to just try the shove out. But you're right, the reality of that is just that could probably turn into 2 more hours. Everyone now is just all right,
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
even the
exactly.
skater's just like losing it at that point, and I'm like, wow. So all because I wanted to push the skater to try and get a better clip, we're now just ruining the whole vibe of like the
Yeah.
day, and it's like kind of reading the room like that because everyone was
Yeah.
stoked, and just especially the skater himself. So that's even the key there. 'Cause,
Not
like,
to say that that couldn't happen.
For sure.
But it's just those things that I check in with myself now a lot when I'm like, okay, am I still having fun?
Yeah.
Or is this turning into like a battle? And I mean, there is a lot of times where it turns into a battle anyways,
sure.
but it's like just being like, okay, I'm still having fun. Okay, now I'm starting to get frustrated. Now I'm not having fun anymore, and I just want to land it.
Yeah.
And that's like the non-fun part about skateboarding.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Because it's like so fast. It's like, I'm having fun. I'm working hard. Boom.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah.
I'm pissed the fuck off.
That's exactly what I was going through. It was like we're at the last spot, no one was skating, and I'm just like, you know what? Like I'm gonna skate this, and then like everyone else started joining, being like, this is fun, and they were just like, we got nothing for this, and I was like, I think that's the thing. Once you get that one that's super close, and you like know it's possible, that's for me, and I noticed that during the session. I had that one where I was on it, did the thing, I'm like, oh my god, like it's right there. Okay, like this is now happening.
Yeah.
So now it's a matter of time and perseverance and mental battles of just like not getting in your own way of psyching yourself out over certain things or whatever. But yeah, just to go back to that backtail shove type of aspect, I think in previous years that was always my MO. Like I was actually wanting to make a project, knew the skaters I was filming with, knew their capabilities, and tried to like not over push them, but if we get something, I'm like, yo, I know you can do this.
Yeah.
And it's half and half. It works out or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it can really not and just like change the whole vibe. But
totally,
like we mentioned on this podcast probably like a couple episodes ago, the vibe for this summer is dad cams and small setups. And just like not trying to do too much. Like just read the room. Yeah. We're out. We're in the sun. We're outside. We're having fun.
Yeah.
And that's just like what we're doing. So again, it was a great session. Great weekend. Yeah. All right, we have some notes for this one. Should we dive into that or anything else you want to catch up on?
Read them to me.
Last time I saw you, maybe a couple times before, I forget what it was for, but I think we were talking about the word momentum. And most specifically when you don't have a lot of things on your plate, and let's just say you only have like one edit to do for like the whole day, like one quick little thing you have to do for the day. You kind of stall on that. Because you're like, well, when that's done, then I have nothing to do. But when you have a whole bunch of stuff to do, you build that momentum of just start hammering things out. And I think it's the saying of, what is it, like, if you want to get work done, give it to a busy person.
Right.
There's like a saying with that.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard that, but that makes sense.
Remember we had to talk about that. I'm trying to remember what the context of what that initial conversation was with that, but I remember you said it and we were here in your kitchen and I was like writing it down on the notes app to try and like elaborate on it.
Oh, I do. Like I have this thing that I know for personally, not so much related to work wise, but like more of just my own ideas that like float around in the background that like if I'm working on a YouTube video per se, and like finally actually am able to like lock in and just do it on my own. If I don't start something on the tail end of that, it'll just go into nothingness. So I need like a crossover of like when one project is ending, I start a new project so that like the momentum is still flowing versus just like, okay, I posted the video, cool. Now I'm just going to sit down and wait for all the views to come in. And then I just fucking like, I'm just sitting on the couch watching Netflix.
So you're saying there's always overlap of like finishing that like project A going into project B?
That's when I feel most productive.
Interesting.
Because you're like still firing off, like thinking about ideas, having to finish it. So it's actually like kind of motivating on both sides of it.
Yeah.
And then, like once the project flatlines, it's to me, that means done. Because I'm just like, okay, once I hit render, upload.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with it now?
Yeah, it's definitely harder to start back at zero on like your next thing because you're right. You're like, export on YouTube, cool.
Yeah.
What's my next idea?
Yeah.
Versus like, okay, like you're in the middle of editing or shooting or whatever you are in that project, and then something sparks you for the next thing.
Yeah.
So then like you're like, let's just do something to put that in place while I'm still working on this. So it's an easy transition going into the next
Yeah.
thing. That's super smart. I think for work, it's funny. I don't like to do that in terms of like my client work. I need to be like, I'm working on this. I have momentum on this. Get it done before I want to move on to this project, which I guess
Right.
is a little different for
Yeah.
when you're thinking about like YouTube and doing like the videos for yourself and for your channel where
Yeah.
you're the client in a sense. And you just have to go with your like vibe, wherever your energy is going with that,
Totally.
being like I'm got sparked on this idea even though I'm working on this.
Exactly.
But I need to like do something to start that for myself. Versus again, me in terms of client work, it's like I'm not going to go 80% of an edit here and being like, now let's just switch gears to go on this project. Because
Yeah.
that just, it's going to be too much of a different project where I'm going to kind of take myself out of that momentum.
Yeah. I feel like those video games where you're like like a server or like a chef in the kitchen, you have to like go around and get all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And those like old classic games, that's how my like work feels usually. It's just like, okay, I get a V1 to that client, now I go into this client, get a V1 out for them. Okay, now I need to do a V2 for this people. Okay, now I need V3 for that. Okay,
And then
like,
invoice this, respond to
yeah.
this email, all that kind of stuff. I feel you. And I think that is the nature of the beast. And like when
Yeah.
you're busy and you have to kind of juggle all that kind of stuff. But in terms
Yeah.
of the actual like craft of editing, I don't think, and I don't know about you, but like I would never want to be like, let's get 40% of this done, then 40% of this, and this and this, let's go back to this and do this,
Yeah,
this.
no.
Like when I'm editing, it's like I need to like
V1.
V1 it. I need to
Yeah.
try and tell that whole story, build that momentum. I already had all that footage marinating in my head of how I'm gonna build that puzzle. That's gonna be way too many puzzles if I'm gonna try and do all that all at
Yeah.
once. We're being like, and now we're on this project, move over to this, and like do interviews on this one. And I can't scatterbrain that. Do you feel the same there, or can you still just do that where you're like, I'm bored of project A, let's move to project
Yeah,
B?
I think it depends like what sort of lifting needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like if it's just like some simple like scrubbing through or color correction or like searching for B-roll, I'm like, yeah, I'm bored of project A, I'll do something on project B, because I know it's like I just have to input whatever, like place cards or something like that.
And it's better than still just fighting with project A because like you think it's the best thing to do because your mind's already on project A, so let's just fight through it. When in
Yeah.
reality, it's more like I just need to step away from this project.
Yeah.
Still want to be productive. Let's just move on to something else.
If they're the same, I cannot do it.
Yeah.
If they're both in the same boat, I can't.
Yeah.
Too hard.
Definitely way too hard.
I heard Stephen Pressfield say that, who wrote War of Art. Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast, and he was just like, every time I'm like done a book, while I'm doing like the book tour, I'm writing my next book.
Mm.
I'm not just like riding the coattails of just like, yeah, I'm going to book signings and doing interviews. Like I'm when I'm finishing, I'm beginning again, because I might not ever begin again if I just go and do the press run.
And I feel like a lot of musicians and artists do the same thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
when artists are on tour, I feel like
They're writing.
that's where they're writing and still even producing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like maybe it was like a YouTube documentary style thing on like Logic, I think, the
Yeah.
rapper Logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like, you can see so much footage of him in his tour bus, like producing beats and like rapping,
Yeah.
like
That's
while
so
he's on the road,
sick.
which makes sense because you think it's like you'd be inspired by
Totally.
a tour when you're traveling around, seeing new places. Like
Totally.
that is the time to like not close off new ideas to put down on a piece of paper or record into a mic.
Yeah.
It is the time to like try and multitask that of like, yeah, you're on tour, you got to like do your job in a sense,
Yeah.
but part of your job still is like that momentum and like
Mhm.
creating more. And the best time to create more is when you're inspired.
I feel the least creative when I'm in my office.
Yeah.
I feel the least want to do anything, and it's yet where I spend most of my time.
Being creative and it like,
Yeah.
well, like doing a creative job.
Yeah, and also trying to be creative.
Yeah.
And I find way more like I have so many ideas just like biking around with my headphones in. I'm just like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Like having experience, and it sucks that we don't really get that as in our like profession of like when you're on set, it's not like you're on tour per se, like
Yeah.
because you're so dialed in
Yeah.
to like this thing that's
Task
happening.
at hand.
Like, yeah. So it's not like your brain is just like, whoa, this is so inspiring. Maybe if you have like some free time That's a pretty big blanket statement. Like I've definitely
Yeah.
been inspired on set where you're like, whoa, this is a really cool like lighting setup or something.
For sure.
But in general, I feel like our window to be inspired or like experience wise, we don't really have a lot as like editors in that sense.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
say shooting, there's a little bit more leeway, but
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because you're putting yourself in environments that are like a bit more different and more collaborative, where you can like witness things like
Yeah.
that. You see someone on set like move a light in a certain way, or just like working with a director or a DOP that's like trying to execute on a certain shot. You're just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think about it that way.
yeah.
And the tools that they would have to like try and make that happen. I can think of like a quick example, but it's just something like very basic. I think like probably like 6 months ago, I was doing a car thing and I was using a DP that had a jib and a Sony FX9. So it's like a big setup, but we're trying to do like a very low shot, and his jib couldn't get like
Super
the lowest
low.
it can go is here. And we kind of wanted it here and to do a move from like here to like point A to point B, but very low. Right.
Right.
So he kind of flipped everything upside down, and I think I kind of have this footage. So like I'll show some behind the scenes of this. So like he flipped his whole setup upside down and like shot it the camera upside
Oh,
down,
nice.
and then you just like turn that in post type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like that's so
Of
obvious.
course,
Like,
yeah.
of course that's what you can do. So
Yeah.
that's definitely such like an easy example, but it was still inspiring just to kind of like watch that process of like, this is the vision that I have. And he was just like, this is what I can do. I'm like, wow, okay, that's like super cool to see that actually happen.
Yeah.
I was been very much back and forth with like a project I've been trying to get, and it has created some more momentum right now, pun intended, talking about momentum. But at the time, it was sent the 2 emails, feeling like I'm getting ghosted after like probably like a month of like good meetings,
Follow-ups and
good
stuff.
progression, and then just
Yeah.
kind of died down. And I'm like, I already put like a lot of effort. I even gave them like a super rough V1 of like some stock stuff, some placeholders, music, VO. Like this is the base.
Yeah.
All I need is like a shooting day to do this, and this, and like that's all I need. So like let's make something happen here. Like the
Yeah.
ball's in your court now. We have a really solid foundation. Let's move this forward. And after 2 emails, it's just like, wow.
Yeah. Nothing.
And so then we had the discussion of like, what's a good protocol of how to deal with that? And I think our answer was email 1 is the idea, or like that first one that obviously isn't getting ghosted yet, but you're just like, here's where we're at. Here's where we need to move forward.
Yeah.
After X amount of time, depending on whenever your scale or schedule is to try and get this project completion, you would send email number 2 saying like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Would love any response of what this stall is about.
Yeah.
Just curious. More time goes by and still nothing. The third email needs to be something along the lines of, I have to consider this project closed for now. If it needs to come back,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you word this part, but it should be something along the lines of, it needs to be more on my time. You can't just come back to me now in 2 months being like, well, let's just shoot like this Wednesday. And you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
have a like,
Yeah,
dude, I haven't
yeah.
heard from you from 2 months. You can't just do that on me. Like,
Yeah. And end it nicely.
of course. And like
Yeah.
all this is like to be professional. Like you have to say all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
professionally, but it's more also just in terms of respecting your time and your integrity as like what you do. And you can't just always just like be on the
Yeah.
backbone of them when you still have other clients to tend to as well.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm on like a retainer with them, so it makes sense that I get emails the way that I do, but it's often just like, hey, here are assets. Can you like turn this around by the end of the day? And I'm just like, pfft. Why don't you
Wow.
like check in with me, guys?
Yeah.
Like book me. Hey, give me a day, 2 heads up to be like, hey, we want to book you. Like, it sometimes it grinds my gears a little bit just in the way that I'm spoken to. So I like have to like check myself before I send back
Yeah.
emails sometimes, but I usually will always just follow up with just like, hey, like I'm booked until Friday. I'll circle back on Tuesday. And And some of those things are just like, it's just out of habit. Even if you are available, it's like a premise thing.
Yeah.
To be like, you don't just, unless I have a sign that says walk-ins available, you know, like,
It's the exact same thinking for sure.
I don't know. Cause like it is totally possible to like, and you become like that savior. If
Yeah.
somebody calls you and you're just like, yo, I got this thing. Can you turn it around by the end of the day? And they're like, oh my God, you're the best. Thank you so much. But it's like,
When that's all the time, then that's the difference.
Yeah,
And I
true,
think that is like the
true,
main
true,
point
true,
here
true.
is like, yeah, if that's just a consistent thing that the client's doing with you, there's going to be a point where you should stand up for yourself and be like, this is not going to be sustainable for me, especially as I'm trying to grow my business and other things can happen. So you can't always just expect that, like, you hit me up on Tuesday,
Yeah.
here's assets, I need this done by end of day, and you're just like, well, I'm on a shoot. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, what the hell? Like, you've always done this for me, like. So
Yeah.
just kind of setting boundaries like that. And
Yeah.
again, like, you are a professional, so you have to like act like a professional. So the way that you would respond to that, you can't be all sassy and like whatever.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You have to
Yeah, exactly.
like over communicate that in a very professional way to make sure you're maintaining that relationship, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me too, but I can definitely see how it probably happens more with you, especially just more on an editing side and a scenario
Yeah.
of, hey, I have assets. Can we get this done by the end of the day? Would
Yeah.
happen a lot more with an editor than just with more of a hybridish
Yeah.
version with me type of
And
thing.
like I'm on a retainer with them, so it's like kind of
Yeah.
that is the gig.
for sure.
But they've been super like fair and like in their responses and like totally understandable. So it's just like the way that it's said sometimes that
yeah.
I'm just like, we could have like I could get this done for you, or I could have got this done for you
Yeah.
if you emailed me 2 days ago or yesterday.
Just try and be a bit more proactive. And that kind
Yeah.
of goes back to the whole reason why I wrote this down and why we had that discussion is like, there was a lot of people on this email thread, and all I needed was one person just to give me any context of like, hey, like something came up in our business, we're slammed,
Yeah.
didn't forget about this, just give it some time, I promise I'll get back to you. Or anything along those lines
Yeah.
is like what I wanted. Like, business is complicated. I understand like stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
But going radio silent like that is just like, just not cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when there's been a bunch of momentum beforehand. Because that's the other thing. Like, if I'm just like a new person coming in trying to pitch
Yeah.
business, you go silent, you kind of read the room being like, worth a shot, whatever, we'll move on. Cool.
Totally.
But there was like a lot of Zoom meetings before that and good momentum happening. And I was making like rough cut edits of like, this is like what we're going for. So now like our shooting days can be very productive because I
Yeah.
know exactly what shots I need,
That is
meaning
super
that I'm
weird.
not wasting your time. Like a lot of good work is happening here, and all I need is just like a day with you
Yeah.
in your office. Like, let's just make that's feels like it's not asking for too much, especially with all the work we put in so
Yeah,
far.
exactly.
So to go radio silent like that kind of sucked. I did get a response like that week later, just being like, yeah, like our the management team was like out on tour doing that kind of stuff.
Oh, word.
For sure. Cool, no problem. But again, it does come back to you were in the office the whole time.
Yeah.
You must have seen the email. So
Yeah.
just like, how did this email come to me like a week and a half later? I would have taken like 2 or 3 days. Like, anything could have been a lot better than just what transpired, which is
Yeah.
probably why I was so just kind of heated, why we had that discussion,
Yeah.
and why we talked about the kind of like, in a sense, a 1, 2, 3 rule of, one is just like,
Yeah.
here's a V1 of whatever, or whatever the context is. 2 is, I haven't heard from you in a while, just would love to know what's going on. 3 is like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm going to move
Bye-bye
on.
now.
So reach back whenever, but it can't just be the,
Yeah.
hey, like, how about tomorrow? And then
Yeah.
I really expect that when you're just like, dude, it's been 2 months. You can't just do that to me. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Oh, I have a good one. I just thought about this today. Something I've been thinking about a lot, especially with working on gigs where you're kind of like documenting things,
Okay.
events, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I like that kind of stuff.
It's not just about getting a shot, a good focus pull, a good gimbal shot, a good reveal from, like, you know, you're shooting an event, you're like, you're trying to hide, you have a 70 to 200 millimeter on
Yeah,
you,
you're just
you're
picking
behind
off.
a plant and you're just like, and then back. It's not just about like doing 3 takes and being like, cool, I got the shot, let's move on. It's about looking at the action that's happening and timing your move when you see something. The thing that sparked me to say this today is because I'm starting an edit, and I'm just going through all the B-roll so far and looking through drone shots. And I can say a bit of it. It was a pop-up thing that happened at a Costco. So when we got there, we got some drone shots just as establishing shots.
Cool.
But I have like 15 different amazing in and out points. But a lot of them, although amazing, like really nice moves, doesn't show as something as detailed as like customers walking into the store, customers walking out of the store. Right. So as creators
True.
and as like video editors or video people,
You're trying
we
to
love
find that.
the shot, right?
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, you hammer that, like point A to point B, like amazing shot. But if nothing's happening in there, it's more worth taking the easier drone shot with a lot of action that's happening in it. So not getting in your own way of just being like, I need to use the shot because it's so creative, but using the shot that has a good in and out point because of the action that's in it. And that's also just a note for like when you're filming of any type of events or anything that's more of a document style, is don't just go for a move. Kind of like look away from the camera, be like, something's like, there's a handshake, now you go for it. Don't just do it just because you're here, you need to hammer out a shot. Cool, let's go over here and hammer out a shot. Over here, just sit there and wait for something to happen.
Yeah.
Because then that would be more useful and more likely to use that in and out point in an edit when there's the good action that's happening in it. Versus, again, just taking an in and out point that might look amazing in terms of a camera move, but the action inside of the frame is boring as hell.
Yeah. Dude, I dealt with that so much at Canadian Tire. So just that exact drone thing.
Yeah.
Of just like waiting for people to come in and out of the doors or something and like not having that footage.
Exactly.
Or, the documenting thing is super spot on. If it's like an event or even just like in a store, like you see people walking down an aisle and it's like cool, but wait long enough to see them browsing or something, or like it usually feels awkward, and if it feels like you're hanging too long and it's now awkward, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
In an event, you're like, fuck, I've been on these people forever. Just laugh. Oh, finally they're laughing, and now they're looking at me. Like
exactly. You don't want to look suspicious when you're shooting stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're
I've done
watching
so many
people.
shots. I've done so many shots where like I'm here, and I see them noticing me, and I know I'm focused and I'm good, so I'm just like,
yeah,
it's kind of just my face, so that they were just like, oh, he's just chilling.
Yeah.
Except for they probably do see that red light that's on my camera.
I turn that off every camera I get.
I say I should.
Because like even on interviews and stuff, I just like I'm like
it
nobody
doesn't help. Yeah.
Nobody needs to know that I'm rolling except for me.
And you see it on your screen anyway, so like you're good for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't. For corporate stuff, it's good. For like if you're filming any kids or something, like they're honed in on that red light.
True.
Like, you're not filming. I know you're not filming.
That's true. Very true.
And I'm like, I swear I
That
am.
works. Did you think about it
this
week? I'll go first. Illegal trick of the week. Well, we're back at the rapid fire here.
I actually did your illegal trick of the week yesterday or 2 days ago.
You did the fakie.
It's actually looking good on that. And
ledge. I got upset because it was. I've had this discussion with like all of our skate friends and people who understand the details of this trick, and now I feel like illegal tricks, and this has been said before,
style.
It all comes down to style. There can be an illegal trick, but if it's done really well, then it's like it can take a pass. The one that I was going to say this week was going to be nollie varial heel. And I'm saying that because I've relearned that recently. That's also a trick that I broke my ankle on when I was like 16. There goes my lights.
Yeah,
and
we still run it.
It's because it is kind of an illegal trick, but Robert Neal on Primitive.
Yeah.
He's done 2 of them now in videos where you're just like,
that's good.
That was pretty sick.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty sick.
It'd be kind of sick out of a, well, nose manual nollie varial heel.
See, now it's like we're playing with dangerous territory where it's easy to say no, but if it's done by the right person, it could be good.
Yeah.
So it's more of a general fun blanket statement thing of that, where mine for this week is going to be nollie varial heel, because you're going to see a lot more worse ones than good ones.
Yeah. That is a really good one. Mine's a pressure flip because I'm angry that I can't do them.
We filmed that. It's like we
Steven's
filmed it.
just such a good one.
And I'll cue that right now because we went skating this weekend. He had a line where he just threw out the pressure flip right at the
Dude,
very, very
every
end.
time I've been skating with him, I try to do them, and I can't.
It's just a good answer for
It's such
in
an
general,
illegal
like,
trick, man.
it is. It is.
Like how? How does it even work?
Best trick of the week. You want me to go first? You got one?
Yeah, you go first.
My answer was going to be JP Souza. He posted that NB part.
Oh yeah.
And this has been littered on Instagram. He did the switch 5-0, pinched, 360 heel out. That was like perfect. And the reason why I wanted to pick that trick, and especially to relate it back to like the world that we live in, it all comes down to when you see like a skate part for the first time and how you feel. And the way that was shot, super cinematically amazing. The way that was edited in terms of the slow-mo was on the land and on the crescendo of the song. Hits you. Like it really hits you that way. Because there's you can see a trick with no music and like regular speed and you're like, wow, I'm never going to be able to do that trick. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But you see it
totally.
in a full, properly produced part at a good part of the part in the music and the way that you choose when to use slow-mo and all that kind of stuff. Everything about that in that moment is one of those times where like you do feel like the chills go up and you're just like, whoa, like I felt something because of that, which is super cool. So again, that just kind of talks to the power of editing.
Yeah.
And that can be related to anything else that you do. It's just like, how do you use music? How do you use effects? How do you use the psychology of editing to make people feel something when you're trying to tell a story of whatever that is?
True.
So that's going to be my pick, even though I know it's littered across Instagram right now. But again, my aspect of why I'm picking it is because of the editing of it and how it was used in the part. And of course, I'm rambling on a rapid fire. So Spencer, I'll let you go.
I think that's true though. Like, although skate editing will really pull you in, but it will not fix a good trick at a good spot.
Yeah.
I'm way more. It doesn't have to be the hardest trick, but if the trick looks good at the spot, that's where it tickles my fancy.
Love. 100%
This week
agree.
there was I don't know what video it was in, but it was in Quarter Snacks, and it was like this like basically like death drop like 5-0 on like a corner. So like this dude, I think it was like a ride on 5-0.
Okay.
And like he could have fallen off on the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, damn, that was cool.
But I love that idea of like it doesn't always have to be the techiest thing like a switch 5-0 360 heel and you're like, bruh.
Dude, that's
like,
why I love Suchu, because he like thinks through like what would look good at this spot, and then he does it. He does whatever 100%. He wants because he can, because he's a magician.
We're gonna do the editing tip of the week or the shooting tip of the week thing.
If the track is linked and I just want to take the video and not the audio, just hold Option. You can like not have to worry about screwing up stuff. So
how would that work in DaVinci then?
Same thing. Option. The hotkeys are pretty much the same.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can like make it the same as well.
Yeah. That like kudos to them for making that like that. Like as soon as I switched, it took me less than 2 days to get familiar with the hotkeys.
And you hear people, and myself included, being like, but I heard it's so much of a learning curve. Like, I don't want to go through that right now. But, like, come on. Like
the UI is, for sure. Like, it looks different. But, like, when you really break down the act of editing,
correct,
you can use any NLE because you're like, oh, I need to move this clip. Okay, I need to, like, I need, how do I ripple delete? Okay, how do I J-cut? How do I, like, that is like the skilled trade, and then what you're doing it within doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure. NLE stands for nonlinear editing, in case you didn't know.
True.
Nope, love that answer. Mine's going to be, my filming tip of the week is going to be when you're filming an interview, like you're behind the camera, whether you're a camera operator or the person asking questions to somebody just to try and get good sound bites out, is to what we call flag answers. So that when you feel something special, like you have an answer that's like really special where everybody behind the scenes is just like, whoa, like, yeah. Put your hand in front of the camera, put something in front of your camera to make the shot look more jarring or just something that's very different. Meaning, when you're now in editing and you're like, oh yeah, I remember there was that one good answer or multiple good answers, whatever, when you're trying to make selects, it's easier to just kind of like scrub through the footage. Oh, there's like something random coming in front of there is something random coming in front of the frame.
Yeah.
Now I know the answer right before that was something on
Yeah.
set we declared like special, and
Yeah.
who knows what that could work with the edit versus, oh my God, that was such a good answer. Now you're in editing. Now you're scrubbing and you're like, where the hell is this?
Oh yeah.
I recorded for 40 minutes. Where was that 5 seconds of magic?
Right.
Now you have
right,
to
right,
watch
right,
the whole
right,
thing or just like,
Yeah.
it'll just take so much longer. So again, this is something you should do maybe multiple times, depending on the scope, depending on the project. It's still something that you can incorporate into like your filming protocols of, it doesn't hurt to like, after the answer's done, make sure you give 2 or 3 seconds of leeway, blah, 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 blah. Okay, put your hand in, put something in. Don't do it right away in case you
Yeah.
need those extra frames.
Totally.
But it's just something that you can quickly do on set that will save you your future self time in terms of editing. So
I love
that's
to
my
use
filming tip of the week.
when like that's never been done for me. But if you're in the edit side trying to do that, I'll always have a timeline of like markers. Like when the first time I watched the
For
interview
sure.
with you, and I'll like type in to the markers like from this part to this part. Like, so you can like stretch the markers out to be like, okay, now you can look exactly and like just
Exactly.
read quickly, looking at the timeline to be like, oh shit, cool. Okay. That's where that question is.
I love that input because that is the editing equivalent of just doing that.
Yeah.
So like doing it on set just helps you be proactive if you're working with an editor who like
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. It just kind of would
Yeah.
slow them down. But again, if you are an editor and don't have that, but wish you did, that is a way of
Yeah.
approaching it. So
Because God,
It's really
don't we
cool.
all wish we had that?
Alrighty, moving on here, cruising along this. All right, we're on snack of the week, and I wish I could remember the brand. I remember looking at this and being like, okay, remember this brand, but maybe I'll put a picture of it. Those fig bars that I've been eating.
Oh
I even
yeah,
brought it
yeah.
on set.
You had some.
I
on
went to
the session.
Costco and found those fig bars, and I
Nice.
think I first ate it like years ago on a set that actually had a craft table,
Sick.
and I'm like, oh, these are amazing.
So
And
they
I haven't
didn't have
really found it
Welch's?
since.
Dude, Welch's is
Yeah,
the
Welch's
staple,
is a good one.
staple craft table.
But then I found it at Costco, a big old box of it, and I've
Nice.
just been hammering that for like the past couple of weeks. So
Fuck
that
yeah.
that is my snack of the week. That's definitely something I have like once or twice a day.
Dude, yeah. Mine's definitely Malona. Whenever it gets hot
Yeah.
out, it's a Malona. It's like not a freezy, it's not a popsicle, it's not ice cream. You know? It's like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Something we learned this week.
Proactive communication is great. Experience is experienced outside.
We're inside. We're having an experience.
Outside your daily life.
I think I know where you're going with this. And
That's
I think
the
I
whole
can
thing.
appreciate it.
That's the whole thing. Experience is experienced outside your daily life.
I can't remember mine. I'm going to take that as the answer. Thank you for watching. We're going to see you in episode 6.
This guy stole it.
I cut my camera, but we didn't cut the audio here. I just remembered what it was. I have a slate that doesn't work well with any markers. So something that I
This is-
learned, which is something very like obvious and easy,
Dry erase.
but no, I bought dry erases from Dollarama and it made it so much worse.
Okay.
So it's just tape. Just use tape.
Gaff tape.
Especially when there's like very set items that you need to accomplish,
Yeah.
where it's not going to be like you're writing like
Like A, B.
different things like all the time, where you have to like really erase and write very specific things. If you have scripts and just know exactly what's going to happen, put marker on tape it on the back of the slate, and just like interchange it, just kind of like you would with magnets or something like
Yeah.
that. Not kind of like something that I learned in a sense, but it's something that I learned.
It's
that, like,
experience.
it's like-
That's experience.
It's experience. Okay, now we're
Okay,
done.
now cut it.
Episode 5. We'll see you.